cash-in update. Fans of Quake Team Arena rejoice because ID Software has released a new map pack for the game. Team Arena Map Pack 1 features 4 team-style maps, and the thriving Quake community and ID Software have designed them. This should mean that the maps are very playable to boot. Team Arena Map Pack 1 can be downloaded from the usual PC file sites. Capcom Eurosoft will use Electronic Arts as a European distribution partner for their forthcoming PlayStation 2 titles. Electronic Arts will be responsible for all European territories outside of the United Kingdom. The deal with EA will cover products such as Street Fighter EX3 and Onimusha Warlords.
Cover me. Now, running around working as a team in full combat gear is a lot of fun, believe me. And that's why war games on the PC are so popular at the moment. Well, Operation Flashpoint is a new one from Codemasters, and here's the battle plan in TBA. Roy, go, go, go!
Operation Flashpoint is soon to be the next war sim to hit the PC. Set in the mid-1980s, you take part in a campaign during the Cold War, the main selling point being that not only do you control soldiers on foot, you can also take the skies, drive trucks and tanks, and even get wet whilst trying to win your campaign. Being a sim, all the vehicles behave realistically, and even going up the ranks plays how it is, as you start off as a private and work your way up to colonel in single player. Multiplayer is where things really get interesting. Over a LAN you can work as a team, with squads of troops on the ground backed up with helicopter air support. This early preview code looks promising, and when we get hold of the full game, you can be sure of a full review from the assassin. Wipeout Fusion soon to hit the PS2, and blimey is it looking slick thanks to 128 bits of processing power. It's the year 2150 AD, and the Federation have unveiled their new Wipeout F9000 League. This new generation of anti-gravity spacecraft have 7 times the maneuverability of the original craft, which allows them to race upside down and at any angle the player chooses. Not only are the craft improved, but the tracks now have freedom areas where the player can choose where to go and what route to take. But you'll have to think fast, because as you can see, this game plays blisteringly quick. Also expect brand new weapons for both single and multiplayer, and the option to customize your ships the way you like. So it looks like spoilers, alloys and base bins all round then.
So we've taken some time out from battle now, and I'm joined by Noel Hargrave from Brightstone.
We've done a paintball game before, and we wanted to do something that was a little bit different, but was really reflected, the core itself. Free for all. I used to go and I know all about it. It's a fairly straightforward sport at the end of the day, and the game reflects most of the rules, in the actual game.
So basically it's like a normal day of paintball without the free lunch and the bruises.
Yeah, you're not going to get muddy and you're not going to get wet, but you'll have a lot of fun.
Now, one game where you definitely go it alone is Metal Gear Solid. Now, in part 2, we've got a treat for you because we've got details and new footage of the sequel, Sons of Liberty. But if you need reminding how good the first one was, or heaven forbid you've never played it, then here's what all the fuss is about.
Metal Gear Solid was released in the UK for the PlayStation in 1999 on the 27th of February. Sales for the first weekend hit 65,000, and total sales so far have reached over 500,000 copies. There's no denying this was, and still is, a great game, but what made it so good?
Because it introduced a sort of new type of gameplay, which I suppose has been characterised as new up gameplay.
I think it's so special. When you start the game, it's almost like you're taking part in a movie. The way that there's a lot of set pieces, and in a way it's very linear. And you have to do certain things to progress in a certain order. The music added greatly to the gameplay because of the way it worked. Dynamically, you'd be sneaking around and it was kind of low key. Then, if you got spotted by a guard, it would start to build up, or if you're approaching a big sequence, big action sequence, end of level, guarding sequence, and the music would build up and build up, and really create an adrenaline rush.
It was a good mix of shooting and sneaking around, and there was sort of fun little gadgets in it to play with.
Yeah, there's a feature where you can hide in cardboard boxes, you've got night vision, you've got quite a cool zoom facility, so if you're outside in a large area, you can scan distance.
If you're ever sort of in an area where there are infrared beams, you'd have to go to take a cigarette out of smoking to find where the beams were. I always love that little touch. Not often you see game characters smoking like that. You actually have to put your joypad on the table. In fact, I think it told you to do this in the game, and it would sort of bounce around. It was all part of the whole experience of showing you the power of the enemy and stuff like this. It read your memory card as well, which is kind of an odd thing for a game to do, but it seemed to make sense at the time.
This game was unique, and from the original trailer, gamers could see that this was going to be a genre buster. The trailer for Sons of Liberty is causing similar, if not more, hype. But over 2 years on, will the game live up to its predecessor?
Well, I think everyone's hoping that. I think Konami's certainly hoping that, and I think even Sony's hoping that. I mean, it can't come out too soon for Sony. PlayStation 2 certainly needs killer games, and it hasn't really had any yet. And there's no question that Metal Gear Solid 2 is going to be an absolute blockbusting killer game.
Protect the Base. I think you'll agree it was a classic, but will manga-inspired futuristic action game Oni on the PC get the same accolade? Well, let's see what the assassin thought. You right down there?
The best thing about Oni is the close-up fighting system. It really is genuinely just about as good as what you'll get in a high-end beat-em-up. There's some nice combos to learn, there's a nice feeling of three-dimensionality to it, and generally it just feels pretty violent. One of the best things about Oni is that the environments truly are absolutely massive, crawling with enemies, and the enemies don't hang around for you to come to them. In fact, they're absolutely merciless in their pursuit of you, and some of them will even fire into close combat where you're fighting with their mates in an attempt to get you. Hardcore. Of course, since Oni does the close-up combat thing so well, it's only reasonable to expect that it's going to fail when it comes to the shooting. It nearly succeeds, but basically it fails. If you're used to the kind of level of control you get in first-person shooter games like Quake, you're going to find the clumsy controls of Oni very, very annoying when you're trying to pick off an enemy in a high ledge far away. After a while, it just gets infuriating that you don't have that pinpoint accuracy of the mouse and keyboard combination. Basically, third-person games on PC don't have to be like this. Look at Giants, but in Oni, somehow, it's just lacking. Oni looks nice and solid, and some of the character animations are nothing short of stunning. They move nicely between different animations as well, giving a real sense of a sort of living world. There's only one problem. There's a certain blandness to the graphics. The characters, just a little bit of a lack of detail. And then you get onto the environments. They've decided, because of the manga-esque setting, to set most of it in kind of warehouses or factories. And that means that they get an excuse to put huge expanses of featureless wall in there. And after a few levels, that can just get a little bit boring. So does Oni live up to the hype? Well, to be frank, no. The close-up fighting is quite good for a while, but it gets repetitive. The levels are a little bit bland, and the long-distance shooting is not up to the standard we have come to expect from PC games these days.
Hold that position. Well, it's game over for part 1, but like Raw, keep a lookout for part 2 because we run down the best covert action games you should be playing, and of course, it's a Metal Gear Solid 2 Frenzy. You'd be a fool to miss it. But first, if you're acting more like Austin Powers than James Bond in first-person shooter No One Lives Forever, then help is at hand in our Game Over boot camp.
No One Lives Forever may be very tongue-in-cheek, but there's nothing funny about being shot in the face every 10 seconds. This game is hard, so here's some tips on how to prove the name of the game wrong. The gameplay is like a cross between Thief and Half-Life, so it pays to be sneaky as much as possible. Setting off the alarms results in being swamped by soldiers, and on some levels results in instant failure. So use the following tactics. When facing a rock wall, use the brooch to pick rocks instead of shooting them off. This way you can carry on sneaking. Avoid cameras at all costs, keeping low and walk. footsteps will alert guards and result in lead poisoning. As well as being quiet, you also need to know the best way to take enemies down when it calls for it. Remember that some objects, such as wooden doors, can be shot through. If you're taking hits and you can't see the enemy, return fire through the door to shut them up for good. The enemy AI may seem almost real, but they do follow a set pattern. If you're being chased by a throng of soldiers, run around the corner and wait for one to pop out. Keep aim where you shot the first one, and the rest will follow like blind and very perforated mice. Use a silence weapon when infiltrating enemy bases, but if the heat gets turned up, switch to a machine gun and let rip. You'll make a lot of noise, but by now it's probably too late to be sneaking around anyway. Don't forget to use your gadgets. The sunglasses zoom function can be used to spot enemies before they spot you. And the body remover can get rid of bodies before anyone spots them and gets suspicious. Also, using coins to make distractions can lure the guards away from cameras, where they can be safely disposed of without the alarm being raised. And it's worthy of note that if something looks impossible, like these infrared beams in the safe room, then it probably is. Look for alternative routes, such as this grate that takes you under the beams and safely to the other side. And finally, if technique isn't working, then you can always cheat. Try opening the talk function and typing these commands. Good luck, and try not to stare too long after typing in this command. We all know it's not a cheat, but hey, look at that bum mapping.
And now finally for the bit you guys at home and my friend here have all been waiting for. It's the hands-on TV exclusive of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. Very exciting.
John Murphy is just an ordinary man. He's not particularly attractive and slightly overweight, but it's not all doom and gloom. You see, this plain-looking man gets to play games like this before anybody else. And when he offered to pop down to Game Over with a playable copy of Metal Gear Solid 2, we were only too happy to accept his invitation. So how long has the game currently been in production?
I would say approximately about 3 years. Basically, the Metal Gear Solid 2 project finished straight after Metal Gear on the PlayStation had finished, so 2 to 3 years.
Metal Gear Solid 2 is arguably the most impressive PS2 title to date. After the initial disappointment in early launch software, Hideo Kojima and his programming team have showcased what Sony's box of tricks is capable of.
I think what strikes everyone first about this game is the way it looks so different from normal PlayStation 2 games, as you can say normal at this stage. But it is obviously in a different class. And I think what the programmers have done, what Hideo Kojima particularly has done, is spent a long time looking at the machine itself. He's not rushed into making a game. He's looked at what the machine, the PlayStation 2 can actually achieve, and then worked a game around it, and that's why he's getting the best out of it.
The look and sound of Metal Gear Solid 2 is immediately noticeable, but has the gameplay received any major upgrades?
The general concept of the game pretty much remains unchanged. That, you know, this is a sneak 'em up. Really, your main purpose is to sneak around and not get detected. If you want, you can still play the game through without killing anyone. You know, you've got dart guns, you can hide people in. You know, you don't actually have to play the game by killing lots of people. So in that respect, it remains very much unchanged. Things like the cardboard box makes a welcome return.
Cardboard boxes? Exactly how would they come in handy for a covert mission?
The cardboard box is one of the things that people have picked up in Metal Gear Solid 2, so innovative, I guess. You find a cardboard box, you can sit inside it. If you're in the right situation, guards will walk past you. If you start messing around in your cardboard box too much, they'll spot that you're in there, kick it over, and you're done for.
Very strange. Now, we've also noticed interesting posters in locations.
When we first found the scantily clad ladies in, you know, the posters in the lockers, we were just hilarious. But then we worked out, actually, there's like everything in the game, you find something and it's got a purpose for being there. So you leave the locker door open with this picture of a semi-naked woman. If you then get spotted and then make a run for this locker room and hide in the locker, the guards will come in, they'll start doing a search, they'll spot the scantily clad woman, and they'll get completely distracted by that and then ended up cancelling the search.
One subtle improvement is the use of analog controls. Nearly every button on the PS2 pad is pressure sensitive. The programmers researched the gameplay possibilities.
Looking at PlayStation 2, one of the obvious differences between PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 is the controller is all analog. All of the buttons are analog sensitive. So it's just not just on, off, there are degrees. So that it's important how much pressure you put on the controller, you get different effects. So the way that Mr. Kojima's used that feature, he's incorporated aspects of stealth into it so that you have to walk gently along so that you don't make too much noise. If you're shooting your gun, if you release the button quickly, you'll get a dodgy shot because you'll be jerking your hand around. So you've got to release it gently. Basically, it kind of enhances the whole feeling of the game. That the point of this game is to sneak around and be undetected.
And finally, can you let us in on any more secrets?
I've spoken to some members of the team about this, and apparently, after you've got off the boat, you head into the centre of New York. I've got no idea how it works, other than what they've told me. And what they've aimed to do is produce an effect like an enormous monster wrecking New York. It's kind of like a play on the Godzilla theme, which obviously the Japanese love all that kind of huge monsters fighting in the middle of cities kind of situation. So there will be an appearance by this enormous Metal Gear right in the centre of New York, trashing famous buildings, I believe.
I'm not leaving without you. I'm not leaving without you.
I'm not going to make it. Go without me.
All right then. And we'll be taking a further look into the demo very shortly. But first, here's our top 5 covert action games in the collection. You sure you're all right?
Sneaking into number 5 is Delta Force Land Warrior. If you like your soldiers to run like ballerinas, then this could be the game for you. The graphics are quite a leap from the first game, but the AI of the enemies leaves much to be desired. This game does shine in multiplayer mode, and it solves all the problems with the AI, because there is none. Charging into Force Spot is Project IGI. This game is a mix between realism and a typical first-person shooter. You need a fairly powerful PC to get the most out of it, and there are 14 levels which are quite challenging, but alas, no multiplayer support, so it's a bit short. Under fire at number 3 is Hidden and Dangerous. You control a 4-man team in the middle of World War II. Unlike a lot of covert action games, you actually get to change to different viewpoints. Although plagued by a lot of bugs and impossible to find internet games, it's still great fun to play. Gunning its way into number 2 is SWAT 3 Elite Edition. The gun physics in this game are excellent. Everything from the bullets penetrating objects to the sound. It makes you feel as though you're really firing a weapon. Or not, as the case may be. And storming in at number 1 is Rainbow Six. Put simply, this is the best covert action game there is. You are leader of a secret organisation assembled by the UN to fight terrorism. If things get too hot for the local enforcement, then your team is called in to wipe them out.
And if you disagree with us, then tell us on tvchannel.co.uk/gameover. Now, we've already shown you some of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, and if you're still salivating for more, then here it is.
The Metal Gear Solid 2 demo will be packaged free with Konami's latest PS2 title, Zone of the Enders. Zone of the Enders will be available in March in Japan, and hopefully should arrive shortly after in the UK. The MGS2 demo is said to be about 5% of the final game. From the offset, there are a range of selectable difficulty options, as well as a cool rundown on all of the new moves in the game. The story kicks off with an impressive real-time cutscene. Central character Solid Snake strolls down a bridge before running at full pelt and activating some kind of a cloaking shield. He then bungee jumps off the bridge and lands on a tanker passing underneath. Here that he calls Octocon, and you get to see the slick new communication interface with cool rotating 3D heads.
スニークポイントに到着。うまくいったかい？着地の衝撃でステルス迷彩が壊れた。どうやらメタルギアを狙っているのは俺たちだけではないようだ。さっきのヘリの音？さあ、おそらく別の部隊だ。制御したのは最低何人来ているのか。コンピューター制御だから18人くらいかな。
While Snake is using his scope, he witnesses a group of Russian soldiers infiltrate the boat and kill everyone on board. It's here that you get to control the game, and the demo begins. The demo's mission is to sneak through 3 decks of the supertanker before meeting an end-of-level baddie. The end-of-level boss is a girl with hairy armpits, known as Olga.
顔を見せろ。
どこの男も同じね。
何者だ。
国なき民、不動の戦士。
And you have to defeat her in a frantic gun battle. Olga's a bit of a cheeky cow because she likes to take cover a lot and throw grenades at you. However, once you shoot away the tarpaulin she keeps hiding behind, a few well-aimed shots will end her wicked ways. Once she's defeated, Snake spots a mini flying camera, which basically means someone has been spying on him all of the time. Cue the classic "To Be Continued" logo and the promise of more to come.
Right, that's it. Time up. Matt Cattle, game over. Run titles. Hey, I'm not stupid.
Stay tuned now for the .tv debut of Techsperts, a programme that discovers the extreme world of DIY, meeting the people who push the boundaries of technology to the ultimate limit.